In my past life, once I found out my online girlfriend was a successful startup founder and an upperclassman, I broke up with her because I felt inferior. When she begged me to stay, I deliberately said I was only messing around and told her to stop contacting me. I never imagined that would send her into depression until she finally disappeared from my life for good. When I opened my eyes, I was back in sophomore year. The system told me my mission was to treat my online girlfriend right and make her happy. I opened our chat and saw Lucy calling. I didn't decline. I answered, "Jack, I miss you so much. I don't want us to only talk through a screen anymore. Let's find a time to meet in person." Lucy brought it up first. "Lucy, can you give me a little more time?" The truth was, I still wasn't ready to meet Lucy. I felt stuck in the emotions from before, so I wanted to wait a little longer. "Fine, then we'll meet in a month. But if you still say no, I'm coming to find you myself." Since we'd mailed each other things before, she knew what apartment complex I lived in. I quickly agreed. We talked a little longer. Lucy yawned, and I quietly hummed a lullaby until she fell asleep. Once her breathing evened out, I hung up and left my room. I was getting hungry, so I checked the kitchen, but couldn't find anything to eat. When I went back to the living room, Mom was drinking tea. I asked in surprise, "Mom, why are you still up?" She answered slowly, "Your dad's bringing home some grilled skewers. I'm waiting up for a late night snack." My eyes lit up. "Awesome, I'll wait too. I'm hungry anyway." We kept glancing at the door, and after what felt like forever, Dad finally came home. Mom went to greet him. "Honey, you must be exhausted after working late." I got busy, too, pulling some snacks and braised pork trotters from the fridge, and setting out Dad's bottle. "This is great. We've got a feast tonight. Dig in before it gets cold." Then Dad reminded me, "Son, you've got class tomorrow. Just have a little." Hearing him say that made my eyes sting. "Got it, Dad. I'll head to bed." Soon after, I finished eating and went back to my room. Mom watched me leave and asked, "Why does Jack seem a little off today? Did something happen?" "He's grown up. It's normal for him to have secrets. He'll tell us when he's ready. Jack, if anything happens, tell us right away. Your mom and I will always have your back." Warmth spread through me. Dad had noticed something was wrong. "I know. Don't worry, Dad." I waved goodbye and headed into the subway station. By the time I got to campus, it was already 7:30. I dropped my stuff off at the dorm. My roommates were already back. "Morning, Jack." "Morning. Have you guys eaten?" My mom packed me some steamed buns. "Want some?" Their eyes lit up. After stuffing themselves, they grabbed my leg and started yelling, "My savior, you just saved our lives." "Look, I know I'm handsome, but I have boundaries. Let go of my leg. Stop trying to take advantage of me." After messing around, I hurried to class with my roommates. A successful alumna was coming to share her experience that day, and we barely found seats. Tom sighed. "Jack, you know what? Every time you sit next to me, I feel safe." That got my attention. I straightened my clothes, cleared my throat, and said, "Bro, I knew you had good taste. Is it because I'm insanely handsome?" Tom shot back without hesitation. "Not even close. We're both single, so having you here makes me feel less alone." My smile disappeared instantly, so I started bragging. "Sorry to disappoint you, but I have a girlfriend, and she's gorgeous." I didn't notice the classroom getting quieter. "She's cute, clingy, and always wants attention." Tom tapped me, confused. I looked up and saw Lucy staring at me. "Everyone knows you have a girlfriend now, but we're still in class. Tone it down." I sat up straight. "Got it, Lucy. I'll keep it low-key next time." Lucy paused when she heard my voice. "Why does he sound exactly like my boyfriend?" But she quickly shook her head. "No way. It could be that much of a coincidence." Then she refocused and kept teaching. I looked at Lucy with pure admiration. I was unbelievably lucky to have such a gorgeous girlfriend. Just look at that cool, elegant vibe and that beautiful face. She's seriously gorgeous. Yeah, but being that pretty isn't always a good thing. Half the guys on campus want to date her. I was so excited watching Lucy that I secretly pulled out my phone. "Baby, what are you doing? Miss me?" Lucy saw the message while she was speaking and quickly swiped it away. A sharp-eyed student noticed and the room started buzzing. "She has a boyfriend? She even has him set as a favorite. He calls her baby, too. Who's that lucky? What kind of guy is good enough for her? Huh? Quiet. Pay attention." Lucy's expression didn't change. She swept her eyes over the class and everyone immediately shut up. Whoever won Lucy over is a legend. How did he get someone that cold and untouchable? One look from her and we're already terrified. Jack, Lucy actually has a boyfriend. So what? It's not you. Why are you so worked up? Fair point. I like her too, but she'd never like me back. Yeah, it's not you. And it's definitely not me. I stayed quiet, smugly thinking, you've got that wrong. It's actually me. Maybe because we've been talking about Lucy nonstop. The guy in front turned around and warned us. Don't let her looks fool you. My sister seems cold, but she's actually terrifying. I answered without even turning around. If she's that pretty, she can be as fierce as she wants. The guy in front immediately patted my shoulder, impressed. Dude, you've got guts. What's your name? We have to be friends. I replied. I'm Jack. This is my best friend, Tom. I'm Mike. Hearing his name, I complimented him. Dude, that's a cool name. Mike smiled wider and looked at me much more warmly. Finally, someone with good taste. You're my brother now. The three of us started chatting and Mike got completely carried away. Lunch is on me after class. If we're friends, don't argue. My mom made some beef jerky. Come by after lunch and grab some after class. Tom and I followed Mike out, and I happened to lock eyes with Lucy at the podium. She looked at me for exactly 1 second. Then she looked away. I don't think she meant anything by it. I was just another student filing out of a classroom after a lecture she'd spent 40 minutes delivering to people who were more interested in who she was dating than what she was saying. But I felt it. That 1 second hit me somewhere behind the sternum and stayed there. In my past life, I'd thrown Lucy away like she was nothing. I'd told her I was just messing around. I'd watched her beg and felt nothing but irritation. And then she'd disappeared. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just gone. Depression first. Then silence. Then nothing. I'd lived with that for years before I got the chance to come back. The system's voice was quiet, but I always heard it, sitting at the back of my head like a second conscience. Make her happy. That was the whole mission. 4 words. The simplest and hardest thing I'd ever been assigned. We ended up at a noodle place near the South Gate. Mike ordered enough food for 6 people and seemed genuinely confused when Tom pointed this out. I eat a lot when I'm happy, he said. And I'm happy. I made 2 new friends today. Tom looked at me. I shrugged. You're a strange person, Tom told Mike. My sister says the same thing. Mike twirled noodles onto his chopsticks without looking. So, Jack, this girlfriend of yours, the one you were bragging about in class. I hadn't been bragging. I'd been stating facts. What about her? Is she real? Tom inhaled broth at the wrong moment and coughed. She's real, I said. Because Tom told me outside that you've never mentioned a girlfriend before and you two have been roommates for. Tom, I said. I didn't say she wasn't real, Tom said defensively. I said I'd never heard about her. Because it's private. Mike leaned forward on both elbows, deeply interested. How'd you meet? Online. After lunch, Mike took us back to his dorm room and produced an enormous bag of beef jerky that had clearly been packed with love by a mother who believed hunger was the root of all problems. We sat on the floor eating it. My sister made that lecture today, Mike said, somewhere between his 4th and 5th piece. Tom stopped chewing. The alumna? That was your sister. Lucy, Mike said. Older by 3 years. She started that company when she was still in school. Pain in the neck about it sometimes, but she built something real. I kept my expression neutral. So Mike was Lucy's brother. The universe had a sense of humor. She seems intense, Tom offered carefully. She is. Mike didn't say it like a complaint. But she's also the person who stayed up 3 nights straight helping me study for my high school entrance exams. Scary and good, you know? Both at once. I did know. I knew Lucy that way before I'd thrown it away. That evening I lay on my bunk and opened the chat. Lucy was online. The little green dot next to her name had been there for an hour, which meant she was working late again. She always worked late. In my past life that had annoyed me. I'd felt like I ranked below her startup in her priority list and I'd resented it without ever stopping to think about what she was actually building or why. This time I looked at that green dot and felt something different. Admiration, maybe. And guilt. A specific kind of guilt that didn't have a clean name. I typed, still at the office? 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Lucy, how did you know? Me, you always go quiet around 7 and then come back around 9. Office hours. A pause. Then, Lucy, you pay attention to when I'm quiet? Me, I pay attention to everything about you. I hit send before I could second guess it. The dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Lucy, Jack. Me, yeah. She called at 9:43. I was still awake, sitting at my desk pretending to do readings while actually just waiting. You waited up, she said. Not accusing. Surprised. You said you had a deadline, I said. I wanted to know you made it. A breath of silence. Then, I made it. Good. Jack. Yeah. Why are you being like this lately? I leaned back in my chair. The room was dark except for my desk lamp and Tom's faint snoring from across the room. Like what? I asked. Attentive, she said. The word came out cautious, like she'd tested it in her mouth first and wasn't sure it would survive the air. You've always been sweet, but lately you're more. I was going to say different, but maybe more is right too. I thought about my past self, the version of me who'd found her success threatening, who'd broken up with her over the phone in a voice designed to be cruel so she'd stop calling. The next morning Tom cornered me before I could escape to the bathroom. Mike's sister, he said. No preamble. His hair was still flat on one side from sleeping. Good morning to you too. Mike's sister is Lucy, he said. And your girlfriend is also Lucy. I grabbed my toothbrush. Observant. Jack, your online girlfriend and your new friend's older sister have the same name, were in the same lecture hall yesterday, and your girlfriend's voice made her stop mid-sentence. I turned to look at him. Tom was many things: loud, enthusiastic, constitutionally unable to wake up without at least one alarm, but he wasn't slow. I'm not saying anything, I said. You don't have to. He crossed his arms. Does Mike know? No. Does Lucy know? That we're at the same school? Probably not yet. Yet, Tom repeated. We agreed to meet in a month. And when she finds out her boyfriend and her new friend's roommate are the same person? I looked at my toothbrush. Lucy called on Wednesday night while I was half asleep over an economics textbook. Are you busy? She asked. I was approximately 30 seconds from failing, I said. You saved me. She laughed. That sound. Even through a phone speaker it was specific and real in a way that reminded me why I'd fallen for her the first time before I'd been stupid enough to throw it away. I have a question, she said. Ask. The lecture yesterday. The one I gave at your school. I went still. What about it? I said. I was distracted in the middle of it by a student who called his girlfriend baby in class while I was speaking. Sounds rude of him. It was a little rude, she agreed. But the strange part was his voice. It reminded me of you. My heartbeat was very loud. A lot of people sound like me, I said. No they don't, she said simply. You have a specific voice. I'd know it anywhere. I didn't say anything. Thursday afternoon, Mike appeared at our dorm room with the casual entitlement of someone who had decided we were family. Basketball court, he said. Let's go. I'm studying, Tom said. No you're not. Tom looked at his textbook, then at Mike. Fine. I went along. Exercise was good. Thinking on a court was easier than thinking at a desk. Mike played the way he did everything loudly, enthusiastically, with more confidence than skill but enough energy to make up the difference. At one point he missed a layup dramatically and stood there looking betrayed by the laws of physics. The basket moved, he said. Baskets don't move, Tom said. This one did. I caught the rebound and held it. Mike. Yeah. Your sister. Does she know you're at this school? He looked at me, surprised by the subject change. Of course. She helped me pick it. Why? Does she come to campus often? For lectures and stuff. Alumni events. He tilted his head. Why do you ask about Lucy? Friday night, Lucy sent me a photo. No context. Just the image, a small potted plant on a windowsill, city lights blurred in the background behind it. Me, what's this? Lucy, I bought it today. The shop owner said I looked like someone who needed something alive in her office. Me, was he wrong? Lucy, annoyingly no. Me, what kind of plant? Lucy, he said it was hard to kill. I told him that was the only kind I was qualified to own. I looked at the photo for a long time. In my past life I hadn't known Lucy had a plant. I hadn't known much about her daily life at all. I'd kept her at a comfortable emotional distance, the way people keep things they're secretly afraid of losing. This time I was paying attention. Me, does it have a name? Lucy, you think I named the plant? Me, I think you definitely named the plant. A pause. Lucy, Chip. Me, Chip. Lucy, the pot has a small chip on the rim. It was the last one on the shelf. I felt like it deserved a home. The system check came on Saturday morning. I don't fully understand how it works. It's not a voice exactly, more like a pressure behind my thoughts, like a word on the tip of your tongue that keeps surfacing. But sometimes it's clearer. This time it was clear. Mission status, progressing. Subject's emotional indicators improving. Continue current approach. Subject. I didn't like that word for Lucy. but I understood what it meant. In my first life, I'd made her disappear. Whatever this second chance was, whatever system had handed it to me, it was measuring her happiness against some baseline I'd destroyed. I got up and went to the window. The campus was quiet on Saturday mornings. Students sleeping in, bikes locked up in rows, the whole place existing in a state of provisional peace. I thought about the month deadline Lucy had given me. Less than 3 weeks left. I had to tell her 2 things before then. Sunday, I helped Mom with groceries. She hadn't asked. I just showed up at home in the afternoon and found her planning a trip to the market, and I took the bags from her before she could argue. We walked through the market slowly. She didn't push me to talk. Mom had always been good at that. She could read a silence the way some people read text. At the vegetable stand, she said, without looking at me, "You've called home 3 times this week." "I know. We love it. Your father practically floated to work on Tuesday." She picked up a bunch of scallions. "But I want to make sure you're okay." "I'm okay, Jack. I'm really okay, Mom. I held the bags and tried to find the right words. "I feel like I haven't appreciated things properly. You and Dad, people I care about." She looked at me then, really looked. "Is this about a girl?" she asked. "It's about everything, but also yes." Monday, 3 weeks until Lucy's deadline. I sat in the library with my phone face up on the table and rehearsed the conversation in my head for the 4th time. "Hey Lucy, so you know how you heard a voice in the lecture that reminded you of me?" "Funny story." "No, Lucy, I've been meaning to tell you something. I'm actually at the same school where you gave that lecture. Your brother Mike is my friend." I know I should have said something sooner. Better. Still felt like the opening line of a disaster. Tom sat down across from me without asking. "You're doing the face," he said. "What face?" "The one where you're having a very intense internal conversation and losing." I put my phone down. "I'm trying to figure out how to tell Lucy." "Tell her what specifically?" "That you're at the same school, that you know her brother, that you heard her lecture, or that you've been a known presence in her periphery for 2 weeks without saying anything." "All of it. All at once." I called her at 9. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey," she said. She sounded softer than she did in lecture. More like the Lucy who named plants. "Hey, are you busy?" "Just finished dinner." "I'm good." I sat on the edge of my bed, door closed, Tom doing his silent supportive presence thing out in the main room. "I have to tell you something," I said. "A beat." "Okay," she said. "The lecture you gave last week. At Wanjing University." I heard her breathing change slightly. "You know about that," she said. "I was there." Silence. "I'm a sophomore at Wanjing," I said. "I was in the classroom when you spoke. In the 4th row." More silence. Long enough that I started to worry. "Say something," I said. "I'm processing," she said. Her voice had gone precise. Not cold, but careful. The voice I heard. "That was you." "Yeah. You called me baby. In my lecture." "I didn't know it was your lecture." "And Mike," she stopped. "You know Mike." She didn't hang up. That was the first thing I registered. She stayed on the line, breathing, processing, doing that thing Lucy did where she ran through information before she decided what to do with it. "How long have you known," she asked, "that you were at the same school since the lecture? That Mike was your brother a few hours after." 2 weeks, she said. "I know. Why didn't you tell me?" I thought about how to answer that honestly. "Because I was scared," I said. "You'd been asking to meet in person and I kept delaying, and suddenly you were right there 20 meters from me and I didn't know how to tell you I'd been that close without saying something sooner." She was quiet again. "Are you angry?" I asked. I don't know what I am yet." A pause. "I'm also a little, I don't know. You were there. You saw me give that lecture. You were incredible," I said. "Not because I'm biased. You commanded the whole room." A breath. She called me back 40 minutes later. I hadn't moved from my bed. "Okay," she said when I picked up. "Okay as in." I thought about it. Her voice was more settled. Still careful, but settled underneath. "You should have told me sooner." "That's true, but I also understand why you hesitated." And she stopped. "And I've been wanting to meet you for months, Jack. Knowing you're 20 minutes away and somehow still a stranger is strange." But also, another pause. "It makes the month deadline feel different." "Different how?" "Closer," she said. "Real." I felt something loosen in my chest. "I want to meet you properly," I said. "I don't want to just run into you. I want it to be a thing we choose." "A thing we choose," she repeated. "A real first meeting, even if technically we've already been in the same room." She made a small sound. I couldn't tell if it was a laugh or something softer. "You have 2.5 weeks left," she said. "Don't make me come find you." The next morning, Mike knocked on our dorm room at 8. He was holding a paper bag and looking simultaneously cheerful and hesitant, which was not a combination his face usually attempted. "Breakfast," he said. "And also I have to ask you something." I stood aside to let him in. Tom was still asleep, so Mike kept his voice down, which cost him visibly. "My sister called me last night," he said. "I figured. She said she found out you go here." He put the bag on the desk and looked at me seriously. She didn't sound mad, but she was doing the voice. "What voice?" "The controlled one. When Lucy is actually feeling something, she gets quieter, not louder." He studied me. "You're her Jack." "Yeah." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "I've heard about you. Not by name, she keeps that stuff private. But she mentioned she'd met someone online. He paused. That she really liked him." "I really like her too," I said. And I meant it clean, no past life complicated. Tom woke up, discovered the buns, and immediately adopted Mike as a permanent fixture in his life. The three of us ate breakfast on the dorm room floor. "So when are you meeting her?" Tom asked, through a mouthful. "Tom, it's a reasonable question. It's also none of your business." "Technically it's Mike's business," Tom said, pointing at Mike. Mike raised both hands. "I'm staying out of this. Lucy would destroy me if I meddled." "Smart," I said. "I've had 22 years to learn her warning signs." Mike finished his bun and looked at me. "But for what it's worth, she wants to meet you. I've never heard her talk about someone the way she talks about you. Without saying your name or any details. Just the shape of the thing. She cares." I looked at the floor. In my past life she had cared, and I had treated that care like an inconvenience. Like something she owed me and I could decline. The system pulsed. Make her happy. Tuesday evening I sat at my desk with a blank notes document open and wrote down what I knew. Lucy was the kind of person who built things deliberately. Her startup wasn't luck, she'd mapped it out and executed it piece by piece while everyone around her was still figuring out what they wanted to be. She kept a plant named Chip because it had a chipped rim and deserved a home. She sounded quieter when she was actually feeling something, according to her brother, who had 22 years of data. She had a deadline in 2.5 weeks and she had warned me she'd come find me herself. She made me feel, every time we talked, like I was talking to someone I had to be worthy of. I opened the chat. "Me, are you free Saturday afternoon?" The dots appeared. "Lucy, depends." "Why?" "Me, I want to plan something. A real meeting." Like I said. A pause. Then, "Lucy, what kind of something?" "Me, nothing crowded. Just us. In the same place at the same time, by choice." Wednesday I went to the bookshop near the East Gate. Not to buy books, though I bought two. Mainly to walk around and think, which is something I do better when I'm moving. I needed to pick somewhere for Saturday that was quiet but not awkward. Comfortable but not so comfortable that it required already knowing each other. Somewhere we could talk. The bookshop gave me an idea. There was a cafe attached to the back of it, not the campus cafe, the real kind, with good light and wooden furniture and the kind of ambient noise that meant silence between two people didn't feel exposed. I'd been there twice. It was run by a retired professor who kept the music at a volume that was barely music. Students came to study but also just to sit. I texted the address to Lucy that night. "Lucy, this is near campus?" "Me, 10 minutes from the South Gate. They have good tea." "Lucy, you researched the tea." "Me, I researched everything." "Lucy, of course you did." "Me, is the place okay?" Thursday and Friday crawled. I don't say that lightly. I've never been someone who watches clocks. But those 2 days had a specific sluggish quality that made every hour feel like it was checking the time on its own behalf. Tom noticed. "You're vibrating," he said on Thursday evening. "I'm sitting completely still. Physically still. Internally vibrating." He turned a page in his book. "This is about Saturday. Observant. You've reorganized your desk twice. It needed organizing." "Jack." "What?" "It's going to be fine." I looked at him. "You don't know that," I said. "No," he admitted. "But she said yes, she picked the place based on the fact that you picked it, and you've been talking to this person every day for months. She knows you." He turned another page. "She knows the important parts of you," he said. "The face is just the last piece." I sat with that. Friday Mike intercepted me between classes and handed me his mother's beef jerky without explanation. Saturday. I was at the cafe 20 minutes early. I know how that sounds. But I'd rather be there and settled than arrive rushed and distracted, and I wanted to pick a good table near the window but not in full view of the street, with enough light to see each other but not the harsh kind. The owner, a small quiet man in his 60s, brought me tea without asking. Waiting for someone, he said. Yes, I said. He nodded like that was a complete answer and went back to his counter. I sat with the tea and tried not to rehearse anything. Rehearsing was the wrong instinct. Lucy and I had been talking for months. We weren't strangers. We were just two people who had only existed in each other's voices and were now about to be in the same room, breathing the same air, unable to hang up if it got uncomfortable. We looked at each other for a moment. The cafe existed around us, the low music, the owner behind his counter, two students at a corner table, but I wasn't really aware of any of it. She walked over. I stood up, which I hadn't planned to do but did anyway. She stopped on the other side of the table. Hi, she said. Hi, I said. She looked at me the way she'd looked at me for that 1 second in the lecture hall, like she was checking something against a version of me she'd already built in her mind, evaluating the difference between what she'd imagined and what was here. You're taller than I expected, she said. You're exactly what I expected, I said. Is that good? You know it is. She sat down. I sat down. The owner appeared, looked at us, and retreated without a word. He'd work out that we didn't need anything yet. I was nervous, she said, like admitting it was easier now that we were on the same side of a table. I was too. You were. We talked for 2 hours. Not about anything dramatic. We'd done the big conversations over the phone, the late nights, the real things. This was different. Easier and also somehow more significant, because everything was visible. The way she held her cup. How she looked at the table when she was thinking in backup when she'd landed on something. I told her about the cooking class I'd taken sophomore year and completely failed. She told me about the first pitch deck she'd ever made, printed it wrong, showed up with 50 copies of a slide that said financial projections. Phenocal, I repeated. I know. You presented that. I presented that. 40 minutes. Didn't notice until I was on the way home. What did you do? I went back the next day and corrected it and asked if I could re-present. They said no. She paused. I got the funding anyway, 8 months later. Of course she did. You're relentless, I said. My brother says stubborn. Around the 2-hour mark, the owner brought us a small plate of almond cookies without asking. Lucy looked at them, then at him, then at me. Did you plan this? She asked. I didn't plan the cookies. He brought them specifically. He's perceptive. She picked up a cookie and didn't say anything for a moment. I had a version of this meeting in my head, she said. Every possible version. The awkward one, the one where we ran out of things to say, the one where it was somehow even better than the phone. Which one is this? I asked. She looked at me. The one I didn't plan for, she said. The one where it just felt like us. Like us. I filed those 2 words in the same place I'd been keeping all the other Lucy things. Chip. The Phenocal slide. The way she sounded softer when she was really feeling something. Can I ask you something? I said. You can ask me anything. We left the cafe at 4:30. The afternoon had the particular light of late October, low and golden, making everything look slightly more significant than it was. We stood outside for a moment, not quite moving to leave. The campus is that way, she said, pointing. I know. You should probably head back. Probably. Neither of us moved. Mike is going to ask me how it went, I said. He's going to ask me the same thing. She almost smiled. We'll compare notes. That's terrifying. Only if you said something embarrassing. I was very dignified. You told me about the cooking class. That was dignified storytelling of an undignified event. She laughed then. Not the controlled version. The real one, brief and real, that made me feel like I'd passed something. Jack, she said, after. Yeah. The month deadline. What about it? You still have 2 weeks. I know. You beat it. By almost 2 weeks. I walked back to campus alone. Not alone, Tom texted 4 times during the 15-minute walk. Each message was just question marks in increasing quantities. Me, it was good. Tom, me, it was really good. Tom, details. Me, later. Tom, I'm already waiting at the dorm. He was, in fact, sitting on his bunk with a water bottle and the expression of a person who had prepared for a debrief. Well, he said. I sat down. We talked for 2 hours, I said. She's funnier in person. There's a thing she does where she almost smiles before she actually smiles, like she's deciding if it's worth it and then deciding yes. That's very specific, Tom said. I was paying attention. Clearly. He leaned forward. And we're meeting again Wednesday. Tom stared at me. Then he nodded, slow and satisfied, the way he did when something he'd predicted came true. Wednesday, he said. Wednesday. He lay back on his bunk and looked at the ceiling. Jack, he said. What? Mike called that evening. Not texted. Called. Which was very Mike. She texted me, he said, immediately. What did she say? She said, and I quote, "It was good." Which from Lucy is the equivalent of other people saying I am extremely happy and everything is right with the world. I sat on the floor of the stairwell, which had better signal than the dorm room. She also said you came early, Mike continued. I wanted a good table. She said you'd say that. He paused. She knew you'd say that, Jack. She predicted your reasoning. I didn't say anything. You know what that means, he said. That she pays attention, I said. That she's thought about you enough to know how you think. His voice had lost its usual loud edges. He was being genuine, which happened more often than he let on. She doesn't do that with people. Lucy keeps most people at a studied distance. Something about you got through. I thought about my past life. Sunday I called my parents. Not because anything was wrong, just because I wanted to. Dad answered. He always answered Sunday afternoons. Mom was usually gardening and he was usually watching something he'd pretend wasn't a drama if asked. Jack, he said, surprised in a good way. Hey Dad, you watching something? News, he said. Sure. How's school? Good. I wanted to tell you something. Go ahead. I met someone. In person. The girl I've been talking to we met yesterday. Silence. Then, how'd it go? Really well. Another pause. I could picture him adjusting his position on the couch, turning toward the phone properly. Tell me about her, he said. So I did. Not everything, not the complicated parts, not the system or the past life or the guilt that still surfaced sometimes. But the real stuff. How she built a company while still in school. How she named her plant. How she laughed before she decided to. Wednesday came. We met at the same cafe because Lucy had texted the day before, same place? And I'd said yes because the same place felt right, like we were building something on top of the first meeting, not starting over. She was already there when I arrived. I wasn't late. She was just early. You came early, I said. I wanted a good seat, she said. I laughed. She looked pleased with herself in the way she did when a joke landed exactly where she'd aimed it. I sat down across from her. Same window table, same low music, same owner who appeared with tea and then disappeared. How was your week? She asked. Long, mostly because it was between Saturday and today. She looked at me. I had a supplier issue on Monday that I'm still angry about, she said. I channeled it into productivity. My team thought I'd had a great weekend. You did have a great weekend. I did. She wrapped both hands around her cup. But I'm not telling them that. State secret. I thought about it. There were things I couldn't tell her, the obvious ones, the past life, the system, the fact that I'd already loved and ruined her once and had been given a second chance I didn't deserve. But there were true things inside those things that I could offer. I have a bad habit of feeling grateful after the fact, I said. I understand the value of something better after I think I've lost it. I'm working on doing that while I still have it. She looked at me. That's more self-aware than most people manage, she said. Most people don't have a strong enough reason to pay attention. What's your reason? I met her eyes. You, I said simply. She held my gaze for a moment. Then she looked down at her cup. Your turn, I said. Something I don't know. She thought. I talk to Chip when I'm stuck, she said. The plant. I explained the problem out loud and usually by the time I've finished explaining it I know the answer. So Chip is your thinking tool. We met 3 more times before November ended. The cafe on Wednesday became our place without us deciding it was. We didn't discuss it. We just kept meeting there, same table when we could get it, same owner who'd stopped asking if we needed menus. Each time was easier. Not because we'd run out of things to navigate, but because the navigation itself was becoming familiar. The rhythm of how she asked questions, careful, specific. The way I'd learned to answer without deflecting. In my past life I'd been a deflector. I kept distance by answering adjacent to questions rather than actually answering them. I hadn't known I did it until I came back and watched myself do it less. One evening she said, "You're different from who I expected." Good different or better different? She considered the words. I had a sense of you from our calls. You were kind, funny, a little guarded. But in person she stopped. More. Mike had taken to calling our situation a romantic drama unfolding in real time, which Tom encouraged more than I appreciated. You're both enjoying this way too much, I told them at lunch one day. We're your support network, Tom said. You're spectators. Supportive spectators, Mike said. He'd somehow gotten my mom's number and they had exchanged cooking tips twice, which I had decided not to examine too closely. How's Lucy? Tom asked. Good. Better. She had a good investor meeting last week. Did she tell you about it? She called me after. She was still buzzing but trying to sound calm. I remembered the way her voice had shifted, composed on the surface, unable to hide the energy underneath. She's impressive when she's in it. Mike was grinning. What? I said. Nothing, he said. It's just, he gestured vaguely at me. You talk about her like she's the most interesting person you've ever met. She is. The Wednesday before finals season started, Lucy came to the cafe looking tired. Not exhausted. Lucy didn't do exhausted visibly, but there was a flatness to her that I'd learned to read. The kind of tired that lived behind the eyes. Bad week? I asked. Long one. She sat down and accepted the tea I'd ordered ahead. One of my partners wants to pivot on a decision we made 6 months ago. Good decision. Correct decision. He's just scared. Did you handle it? I will. She said it the way she said most things, as a fact, not a hope. I just needed to not think about it for 2 hours. Then we won't think about it. She looked at me. You don't want to hear about work? I always want to hear about your work, but you said you needed 2 hours off. So. She was quiet for a moment. Okay, she said. Tell me something good. My mom made soup yesterday and called to tell me about it in detail. That is good. She described every ingredient. For 20 minutes. She asked about that on the walk after. We'd taken to walking after the cafe around the neighborhood, no destination, just movement. You changed, she said. At some point before we met in person. Something shifted. I walked a few steps before answering. I had a moment, I said carefully, where I understood something I should have understood earlier. About how easy it is to damage things. People. Relationships. I paused. About how you can convince yourself that something doesn't matter and be devastatingly wrong. She was quiet beside me. Was there someone before? She asked. Someone you hurt? The truth was yes. The truth was her. The truth was that the person I'd hurt was walking next to me now on a second chance I hadn't earned. It's complicated, I said. You don't have to explain. I want to. I looked at the pavement. I was the kind of person who didn't fight for things, who walked away before he could be left. And I hurt someone who didn't deserve it. She stopped walking. I stopped too. We were outside a small stationery shop with warm light in the window, halfway through a block we'd walked twice already. Jack, she said. Yeah. I need to tell you something. My heartbeat picked up. Okay, I said. When I asked you to meet, and you kept saying not yet, I understand now why you hesitated. I understand you better than I did then. She looked at me directly, but that time was hard. I was starting to think. She stopped. What? I said. That maybe you didn't actually want this. That it was easier for you to keep it at a distance. A pause. I started to feel like I was asking for something you weren't willing to give. Something cold moved through me, because in my past life that was exactly what had happened. I'm sorry, I said. I'm sorry for every time I made you feel like that. She looked at me. That night I sat at my desk for a long time without turning on the lamp. Tom came in around 10, saw me in the dark, and immediately turned on his side lamp instead, lower, less intrusive. You okay? He asked. Yeah, just thinking. He sat on his bunk. Lucy. She told me she'd started to doubt things, when I kept delaying the meeting. He was quiet. That's not surprising, he said carefully. You did delay. I know. I turned my chair around. I have a tendency to not fight for things, to let them go before they leave on their own. And she noticed the tendency. She noticed when it changed. Tom nodded. That's actually good, he said. She wasn't just tolerating the distance. She noticed when it stopped. I caused the distance in the first place. The next Saturday Lucy came to campus, not as an alumna or a speaker, just to see me. We met at the south gate and walked the inside perimeter, the long route that went past the old library and the small garden behind the science building that most students didn't know about. I showed it to her specifically. She stopped at the entrance. It was barely an entrance, just a gap in a hedge with a stone path behind it, and looked at me. How did you find this? She asked. I was avoiding someone in first year and ended up here by accident, I said. Then I kept coming back. Who were you avoiding? Tom. He wanted to rehearse a group presentation and I'd already memorized my part. She smiled. We went in. The garden was small, a few old stone benches, some stubborn late-season flowers, a tree that had been there long enough to have opinions. It was completely private. You could hear the campus beyond the hedge but only distantly. She sat on one of the benches. She looked at the tree for a moment. Then, can I ask you something personal? You can ask me anything. When you said you used to hurt people, that you let things go before they left, what made you decide to stop? The real answer lived somewhere I couldn't take her, but the honest layer beneath it that was real. I think, I said, some things have to actually break before you understand what they were. You can know intellectually that something is valuable, but you don't really know until you feel the weight of its absence. She was quiet. What broke? She asked. The version of me that thought he could afford to be careless, I said. The one who told himself that keeping distance was self-protection when it was actually just fear of needing someone, of being needed. That's not easy to admit. No. She turned to look at me. We stayed in the garden until it started getting cold. She didn't complain about the cold. I noticed her pull her coat tighter and stood up. We should get somewhere warmer, I said. I'm okay. Lucy. She looked up at me. I can tell you're cold, I said. You've pulled your coat twice. A pause. You noticed that, she said. I noticed things about you specifically. She stood. We walked back through the hedge and across the campus toward the cafe near the south gate. Not our cafe, a different one, closer. Inside it was warm and smelled like roasted chestnuts from a cart just outside. She ordered hot chocolate and looked mildly embarrassed about it. It's cold, she said, preemptively. You don't have to explain hot chocolate, I said. I have a professional image to maintain. Your professional image is separate from your right to have hot chocolate. She wrapped both hands around the cup. This is what I mean, she said. What? December arrived. The campus decorated itself reluctantly, some lights strung by someone civic-minded on the dorm walkways, a small tree in the student union lobby. The cafe got a wreath. Lucy and I had settled into something that didn't have a clean label yet. We met twice a week, Wednesday at our cafe, weekends on campus. We talked every day, sometimes for hours, sometimes just a few messages checking in. She'd started sending me photos of Chip, who was apparently thriving under her care and growing a new leaf. I sent her a photo of my mom's soup when she made it again. She sent back, tell her I said it looks perfect. I told my mom. My mom was unreasonably pleased. The system checked in on a Tuesday evening, just a pulse, warmth, the sense of something being measured and found satisfactory. Mission status, progressing well. Subject happiness indicators significantly elevated. Significantly elevated. I sat with that for a while. The second Wednesday of December, Lucy arrived at the cafe with something she didn't usually have. Uncertainty. It was small, just the way she set her bag down and looked at the table instead of at me for a moment. But I'd learned to read her small things. What's wrong? I asked. Nothing's wrong, she said. Then, my partner's situation resolved itself. The one who wanted to reverse the decision. He resigned. She paused. Cleanly, professionally. It was the right thing for both sides. But it's still a lot, I said. A lot, she agreed. I pushed the tea toward her. Do you want to talk about it or not talk about it? I asked. She looked at me. See, this is the question most people don't ask, she said. They either immediately want to solve it or they immediately try to comfort, and neither is what I need. So which is it? I asked. Talk, she said. But not to solve. Just to hear yourself think. Yes. Tom failed his economics midterm. Not catastrophically, he'd pass overall, but badly enough that he was sitting on his bunk looking at the paper with the expression of a man renegotiating his understanding of himself. It's fine, I told him. It's not fine. I studied. You studied for 6 hours the night before. That's studying. That's panic reading. He flopped backward onto his pillow. Mike got a 91, he said. Mike studies while eating. He's efficient. I should study while eating. You eat like it requires your full concentration. Tom was quiet for a moment. How's Lucy? He asked. Subject change. Classic Tom. Good. Her partner's situation resolved. The pivot guy. He resigned. Was she okay? Better after talking through it. I leaned back in my chair. She's good at finding her own answers. She just needs space to hear herself do it. Tom turned his head to look at me. You've learned her, he said. What? Lucy's birthday was the 15th of December. I'd known this for months. She'd mentioned it once in passing, the way she mentioned most personal things, as a side note that was actually an invitation if you were paying attention. I had been paying attention. I didn't plan anything elaborate. Elaborate wasn't what she needed. What she needed was to feel seen, specifically, by someone who actually knew the relevant details. So I ordered a book she'd mentioned wanting 3 weeks ago. Not a famous book or a popular recommendation, a specific one she'd heard about from a supplier in a different industry and mentioned almost as an aside. I've been meaning to find that. I found it. I also called the cafe owner and arranged for a small cake to be there when we met for our regular Wednesday. When she sat down and saw it, she went completely still. You remembered, she said. You mentioned it once, I said. Once. I was listening. She looked at the cake for a moment. She held the book for a long moment without speaking. The cafe was doing its usual quiet thing, the owner had retreated, a couple at another table were murmuring about something, the winter light came in gray through the window. Jack, she said. Yeah. How did you find this? You mentioned a supplier in the food manufacturing sector mentioned it. Third Wednesday, I think. You said it in passing. I said it in passing, she repeated. And I wrote it down that evening. She looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen before. Not quite the smile she usually kept controlled. Something more exposed than that. No one's ever, she stopped. What? Most people who care about me give me things they think I should want. Business books. Practical things. Things that are about who I am to them. She set the book down carefully. You gave me something I actually wanted. That I mentioned once without emphasis. Because that's the real kind, I said. What is? She stayed 3 hours that day instead of 2. We had the cake chocolate, the owner's choice, which turned out to be exactly right, and then kept talking past the point where either of us acknowledged we were staying late. She told me about her first birthday after the company started. She'd been so deep in a product launch that she'd forgotten about it herself until Mike called at 9 p.m. He sang me a song, she said. A song. Badly. Over the phone. The full version. She paused. It was the worst and I cried anyway. I looked at her. You cried at Mike singing badly. He remembered, she said simply. Even when I forgot. That was the part that got me. I thought about that. Being remembered, I said, is one of the best things someone can do for you. Yes. She held her empty cup. And it's so simple. It doesn't require anything huge. Just attention, I said. Attention, she agreed. She looked at the window. Jack. Yeah. That evening I sat with the system for the first time in a while. Not because I was worried. Just because it had been there long enough that ignoring it felt like avoiding a conversation. I thought at it, the way I'd learned you could. What does success look like? I asked it. The response was more like a feeling than words, her happiness, sustained. Not a moment. Not a milestone. A direction. I thought about that. The system had given me a mission. Make her happy. 4 words. And somewhere in following those 4 words I'd stopped thinking about them as a mission and started just doing them. Wanting to. Not because I was being measured but because Lucy was the kind of person who made you want to be worth the noticing. That was the thing about her. She didn't demand anything. She didn't need to. She simply existed building, noticing, caring for chipped plants, crying at off-key birthday songs and you either rose to the level she deserved or you didn't. The week before winter break, Mike pulled me aside after lunch. She's going home for the break, he said. Obviously. We both are. I know. She'll be okay. She works through breaks, she always has. But she works differently at home less efficiently, more, he paused. She gets in her head. Alone, without the office structure. I looked at him. You're telling me this because you call her, he said simply. You already do. Just don't stop because she's home and technically has family around. Family and the right kind of company are different things. I nodded. You're going to make an annoying brother-in-law someday, I told him. He beamed. I know. My sister is very lucky. Then, more seriously, she doesn't say it. That things help. She just doesn't pull back from things that help. You haven't seen her pull back. I hadn't. That means something from Lucy, he said. I know what it means, I said. He studied me for a moment. Me, when do you leave for home? Lucy, Friday evening. You, me, Saturday morning. Train. Lucy, long trip? Me, 3 hours. I like train rides. Good thinking time. Lucy, you and your thinking time. Me, you have Chip. I have trains. Lucy, Chip is my business partner. Trains are just transportation. Me, Chip helps you think. Trains help me think. Same category. A pause. Lucy, that's not the same category. Me, it's exactly the same category. Lucy, I'm not arguing with you about this. Me, because I'm right. Lucy, because it's a silly argument. Me, said the person whose plant has a name. Lucy, Chip is a proper noun. Trains are not. Me, this particular train. Lucy, Jack. Me, yes? Lucy, goodbye. Me, I'll text you from the train. Lucy, I know you will. Me, is that okay? A long pause. Lucy, that's more than okay. The train home was 3 hours and I texted her for most of it. Not constantly, she was working, she had calls. But between her things and my things, we kept a conversation going that felt like the best kind of company, present without being demanding. At one point she sent, "My mom found out I have a boyfriend." I sat up straight in my seat. "Me, what?" "Lucy, Mike. Obviously. He can't keep anything quiet for more than 72 hours. "Me, what did you tell her?" "Lucy, that it was complicated." "Me, is that what I am?" "Lucy, you're many things. Complicated is accurate." "Me, that's not an insult." "Lucy, I know. She wants to know more." I told her when there was more to tell, she'd be the first. I looked out the train window. Fields going past, gray winter sky. "Me, is there more to tell?" "Lucy, I think that's a conversation for in person." "Me, we're not in person until after break." "Lucy, I know." "Me, Lucy. Lucy, Jack." "Me, is that a bad thing?" The more to tell. Winter break at home was warm in all the ways I'd learned not to take for granted. Mom's cooking. Dad's slightly too loud commentary on the evening news. The familiar sounds of a house that had contained my whole childhood. On the second evening, Mom asked about Lucy over dinner. I'd mentioned her last month. Mom had been waiting with the patience of someone who understood timing. "She runs a company," Mom said, in the tone of someone very impressed but too subtle to make it obvious. "A startup, yes." "How old?" 3 years older than me. Dad didn't look up from his rice. "Smart. Very. Good." He served himself more vegetables. "Smart is harder to find than kind, but kind is more important in the long run." "Is she kind?" I thought about the plant named Chip, the birthday Mike sang off key, the way she'd told me she'd been afraid I didn't want to be close. "Yes," I said. "Very." "Then it doesn't matter what she runs," he said. Lucy called on the 5th evening of break. Not a text, a call, unscheduled, which was unusual. I picked up immediately. "Hey," she said. "Hey, you okay?" "Yes." "No, I'm a breath." I talked to my mom. About you. More than I intended to. She asked good questions. A pause. She asked what I was afraid of. I sat down on the edge of my bed. "What did you tell her?" "That I was afraid of being the one who wanted more. Of being in it more than the other person without knowing." She said it plainly, the way she said most real things, without decoration, because the truth didn't need any. I've been that person before. Someone who cared more. It didn't go well. I thought about my past life. About being the person who'd made her feel exactly this way. "Lucy," I said. "I know. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just a pause. Telling you what I'm afraid of. Because I've been thinking about it and you're the person I want to tell." She called the next 3 evenings in a row. Not for long, an hour, sometimes less. But she called. On the 3rd evening she said, "My brother's been texting me about you." "What has Mike been saying?" "That you're annoyingly mature for a sophomore and that my mom would like you." "Annoyingly mature," I repeated. "He means it as a compliment." "I know Mike well enough to know that." She made a small sound. "He also said you know your parents' soup recipes." "Mom told me the recipe." "I listen." "You listen to everything." "Not everything. The things that matter." She was quiet for a moment. "Jack," she said. "Yeah. I want to ask you something and I need you to answer honestly. Not kindly. Honestly. Always. What are we?" I leaned back on my pillow. "What do you want us to be?" I asked. "That's deflecting." "It's not," I said. "I know what I want. But I've been on the wrong side of someone deciding for both people before and I don't want to do that to you." I don't remember what I said after that. I know I said something. Probably something embarrassing that I'll choose not to recall. What I remember is that we stayed on the phone for 2 more hours after that conversation, and at some point she said I should sleep because it was past midnight, and I said you should sleep too, and she said she was comfortable, and I said then stay, and she said okay. She fell asleep first. I know because I heard her breathing change. I stayed on the line for a while after. The system was quiet. Not absent, just settled. Like something that had been running at a constant hum had found a lower register. I thought about the version of me who'd called her cruel in my past life. Who'd told her to stop contacting him. Who'd watched her fall away and told himself it was for the best. I couldn't change that. The past was permanent in ways the present wasn't. But I was here now. And she was here. The first day back on campus after break, Tom intercepted me before I reached the dorm. "You have the face," he said. "Which face?" "The one I've never seen before." "Good news face." "I look the same." "You don't. You look like someone who had a good winter break in a specific way." Mike appeared around the corner carrying 2 bags and a wrapped container that smelled like his mother's cooking. "He has the face," Tom told Mike. "I saw it from 10 meters away," Mike said. He handed me the container. From my mom. She said to tell you Happy New Year and that you're welcome to visit whenever. Does she know who I am? I asked. She knows you're Lucy's Jack. She's been very excited about that description. He grinned. For what it's worth, she has excellent taste. Lucy's Jack. I turned that phrase over. So, Tom said. We're official, I said. Tom nodded, slow and satisfied. Called it. You called everything, I said. You claim credit for all of it. Lucy came to campus that Wednesday with Chip. Actually, she carried the small potted plant on the bus and set it on the cafe table and looked at me like this was entirely normal. I thought he should see the place, she said. You brought your plant to the cafe. I've had a productive break. He was part of it. He should see the results. The cafe owner walked over, looked at Chip, and nodded approvingly. Nice plant, he said. Thank you, Lucy said. He's growing a new leaf. Water once a week, the owner said. Not too much. They don't like to be overwatered. I know, Lucy said. I've been very measured. The owner retreated. I looked at Chip, then at Lucy. He's going back to your office after this? I asked. Obviously. He has work to do. Right. Don't look at me like that. I'm not looking at you like anything. You're doing the fond look. I don't have a fond look. Everyone who knows you says you do. Tom mentioned it first. Tom is a liability. February brought exams and Lucy brought me lunch. She didn't announce it. She just texted one Tuesday, "What building are you in?" Me, library, 3rd floor west. 30 minutes later she appeared at the end of the study row with a paper bag and the expression of someone who had conducted a covert operation and was pleased with its execution. You didn't have to do this, I said. You've been in there since 7 a.m. You've eaten nothing except whatever Tom left you, which I guarantee was half a rice cracker. 3/4 of a rice cracker. Eat, she said, setting the bag on the edge of the desk. I opened it. Proper food. Warm. How did you know where I was? I asked. Tom is a comprehensive liability. Tom is extremely helpful. She sat in the chair beside me and pulled out her own laptop. I'll work here for a while. I have contracts to review. She settled in like it was the most natural thing in the world. I looked at her. After exams, Lucy took me to her office. Not for a tour, she had a meeting in the afternoon and I was going to wait in the lobby. But she said come up and showed me the whole floor before her team arrived. Chip was on the windowsill, exactly as advertised. New leaf visible. Thriving. He looks good, I said. He's been very motivating. I looked around the office. Clean, organized, efficient, and then small details that were entirely her. A shelf of books that weren't business books. A photo from what looked like a hiking trip, her and Mike somewhere with a view. You hike? I asked. Mike makes me. I've made my peace with it. Do you like it? She considered. I like the top, she said. The getting there is optional in my opinion. Classic Lucy. What does that mean? You're goal-oriented. You'd rather have the result than the process. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't immediately name. Not always, she said. No. Spring semester started with the kind of weather that couldn't decide what it was: cold mornings, warm afternoons, the campus in a state of botanical confusion. Lucy came to campus twice a week now. Not just for me, she had alumni things, talks she gave, connections she maintained. But she'd built the Wednesday cafe into her schedule and the Saturday walk into her week, and on Saturdays she came to campus specifically. I didn't take that lightly. One Saturday, walking the campus perimeter, she said, I've been thinking about something. Tell me. My company is expanding. We're opening a satellite office next year. Where? She named a city 3 hours away. The same city where my parents lived. I kept my expression neutral. It's a business decision, she said. The logistics make sense. But it's also, she paused. I thought about it and I wanted to tell you before I finalized anything. Why? Because it affects things. Our distance. Eventually. I looked at her. That evening I told my parents. Not about the expansion, that was Lucy's news. But about the shape of things. How seriously I felt it. Where I thought it was going. Dad listened. You sound sure, he said. I am. How sure? I thought about the system. The mission. How it had started as a thing assigned to me and become simply the truth of what I wanted. Sure enough, I said, that I don't think about what comes after this. I just think about how to make this better. Dad nodded slowly. That's the right kind of sure, he said. What's the wrong kind? The kind where you're already thinking about the exit. He set down his cup. The right kind is when you're only thinking about the door in front of you. Mom appeared from the kitchen with food she hadn't announced. Invite her for dinner, she said, setting the dishes down. Not immediately. When it feels right. But soon. I'm working on it, I said. The following Wednesday I asked her. Simply. Like Mom said. We were at the cafe, end of the 2 hours, coats on, about to leave. Lucy, I said. Yeah. My parents want to meet you. Whenever you're comfortable. No pressure on timing. She looked at me. Your parents. They've heard about you. My mom specifically has been asking since October. Since October, she repeated. I told her things in October. What things? Relevant things. That you built something. That you named your plant. I paused. That you mattered. She held my gaze for a long moment. When, she said. Whenever you want. Next month. Next month works. She nodded slowly. The way she did when she'd processed something and arrived at a decision. Okay, she said. Okay as in yes, she said. Obviously. I smiled. She picked up her bag and headed for the door, then stopped. Jack. Yeah. The system came through clearly the night before Lucy's visit. I was too awake to sleep, lying in the dark in my childhood bedroom, when it arrived, not a pulse this time but something closer to a sentence forming in my thoughts. Mission progress, near completion. Subject's happiness indicators at highest recorded level. Highest recorded. I lay there with that for a long time. In my past life I had sent those indicators in the opposite direction until they flatlined. Until she disappeared. In this one she was taking a train tomorrow to have dinner with my parents. I wasn't naive enough to think the mission being near completion meant things would be easy from here. Relationships didn't work that way. There would be hard days, disagreements, the ordinary difficulty of two people trying to stay chosen by each other across time. But the foundation was different this time. She arrived at 2 in the afternoon. I met her at the station. She had a bag over one shoulder and something wrapped in her hands. I recognized the shape before she said anything. You brought Chip, I said. He's a social being, she said. He should meet people. He's a plant. He's a well-traveled plant. I took her bag and we walked toward home. She was quieter than usual. Not closed off, just contained. Collecting herself. They're going to like you, I said. How do you know? Because my dad said smart is hard to find and kind is more important, and you're both. And my mom has been planning this meal since October. She's been planning it since October. She might have revised the plan several times. But yes. Lucy looked at me. Your family is very, she searched. Warm. I offered. I was going to say organized in their feelings, she said. They know what they feel and they prepare accordingly. Is that good? It's everything, she said simply. Mom opened the door and her eyes went immediately to Lucy and then to the plant in Lucy's arms. You brought something, Mom said. This is Chip, Lucy said. He travels well. Mom looked at the plant, then at Lucy, then at me. Then she stepped back and said, warmly, come in, come in. Dad was in the living room. He stood when we came in the same way he always stood when he wanted to make someone feel properly received. He looked at Lucy. She looked at him. You built a company, he said. I did, she said. While you were in school. Yes. He nodded. Once. The nod he reserved for things he'd fully accepted. Good, he said. Sit down. There's food. There was, in fact, a great deal of food. Mom had made soup. The soup. Plus 3 other things. Lucy looked at the table and then at me with an expression that was asking if this was normal. She expresses care through volume, I murmured. Lucy sat down. Mom sat across from her. Dinner lasted 3 hours. Dad asked the right questions and Lucy answered them the way she answered things she respected, directly, without hedging. Mom kept adding food to plates and listening in the particular way she had, where her expression tracked every sentence. At some point Lucy told the Phenocal slide story. Dad laughed properly. Not the polite kind. The real kind. And you got the funding 8 months later, he said. 8 months and 4 days, she said. That's tenacity. My brother says stubbornness. Brothers and fathers often say the same wrong word for the right quality, Dad said, glancing at me. I didn't argue. After dinner, Mom and Lucy ended up in the kitchen. I didn't orchestrate this, it simply happened, the way my mom made most things simply happen. I could hear them talking. Lucy's voice had lost its careful edges. Mom's laugh came twice. Dad and I sat in the living room. She's good, he said. I know. You chose well. On the train back to campus, Lucy leaned her head against the window and looked at the passing landscape. I sat beside her. Chip was in the bag at her feet, well wrapped, probably asleep in the way plants are asleep. Your mom gave me the soup recipe, she said. She does that with people she likes. She made me promise to make it when I'm tired instead of skipping dinner. She gives everyone a version of that talk. It was a good talk. She paused. Your dad told me to come back whenever I wanted, just to show up. That's his highest form of welcome, I said. Just show up means the door is always open. She was quiet for a moment. Jack. Yeah. I was scared today. I know. And it was fine. More than fine. More than fine, she agreed. The train moved through the gray-gold landscape. Fields, trees, the particular light of early spring that made everything look like it was just deciding to start. She turned from the window and looked at me.